Hey guys, this is Benny Ricciardi with rotocurve.com, and I'm here with another section of our Benny's Bats video for today. Let's see, we got Tuesday, August 11th. The idea of the Benny's Bats video is to go over all the matchups that we have on the day, try to look at the pitchers, figure out what their weaknesses are, and then figure out which hitters on the other team profile to do the best against them. It's a full 15-game slate today with 30 teams playing, so there's a lot to get into. First guy we're going to talk about, David Buchanan from Philadelphia. Left-handed bats are hitting 351 against him. Right-handed bats are hitting 307 against him. He's only given up 5 home runs in 47 innings, though, so he has been able to keep the ball in the ballpark. He's going up against that Arizona team at Arizona today. You got guys like Paul Goldschmidt with a 410 WOBA and a 221 ISO number. Wellington Castillo hit another home run last night. He's been absolutely on fire. 431 WOBA for him, 336 ISO. So he's another guy that you definitely have to look at, definitely have to consider at the catcher position. Let's see, you got David Peralta. Peralta is a 383 WOBA with a 231 ISO number. He's one of the better options that we have, left-handed bats to go up against a guy like Buchanan today. And he's been averaging 1 RBI every 6 at-bats, which is an insane number lately. Let's see, we got Michael Lorenzen is the next pitcher we can look at. Left-handed bats are hitting 326 against him with 7 home runs and 33 innings pitched. He's pitching against San Diego today, and there really aren't any left-handed bats that you want to target on that San Diego team. I guess if you wanted to get a cheap option, you could look at a guy like Solarte, maybe as a second baseman if you can find him on whatever site he's available at second base. But the only guy who stands out on the numbers is actually righty on righty is Justin Upton. He's got a 364 WOBA with a 221 ISO. Homered again last night. He's a guy that always goes on their own, so he could be a good cheap option. But again, I don't love him in San Diego looking for a home run. It's not an easy park to hit in. Next guy we can talk about is Chris Russin. Russin has allowed right-handed bats to hit 306 against him with 7 home runs in 55 innings. Again, on the Mets, there's not a ton of right-handed bats you want to target. A guy like Cespedes, who they just got, is not very good against left-handed pitching this year. Wilmer Flores is the one guy who does stand out. He has a 364 WOBA with a 233 ISO number, so he could be somebody in play. You could also look at a guy like Lucas Duda, who has a 385 WOBA and a 235 ISO number, even though it's a lefty-on-lefty matchup. Next guy we can talk about is Williams Perez. Perez has allowed left-handed bats to hit 308 against him with 4 homers and 26 innings pitched. I really, really like John Jaso as a catcher option today. 384 WOBA, 182 ISO. He's been hitting up towards the top of that Tampa Bay order since he came back. And one thing he does do very well is hit right-handed pitching. Next guy we can talk about, we got a lot of rookies on the mound today. The first one up is Colin Rea. He's making his first major league start. His numbers aren't all that great in the minor leagues, but he did play in that Pacific Coast League, which is basically like playing in Coors Park every game. So you can give him a little bit of, a rope here. First-time starters have done pretty well this year. But, again, left-handed bats have been the way to get at Rea. So you can look at a guy like Joey Votto, 418 WOBA, 243 ISO. I mean, him and Frazier have been ice cold lately. I think yesterday they were like 0 for 8 or 0 for 9 with 4 or 5 strikeouts. But, again, just based on the numbers, he stands out. Frazier's WOBA has really dropped against right-handed pitching. He's down to a 340 with a 223 ISO. This was a guy who had a number close to 400 not too long ago, so he has been absolutely ice cold lately. Jay Bruce, another guy you can look at, 343 WOBA, 244 ISO number. So he's not great in the hitting department if you're looking to get a guy who can rack up hits for you, but he is a guy that has a lot of power, so he could be somebody that gets a hold of one like he did yesterday and gets you that home run and that big score. Next guy we can talk about is Justin Nicolino. Again, another young kid making his 3rd start in the majors. He's a left-handed pitcher, so you're probably looking to target right-handed bats against him. On that Boston team, though, they don't hit well against left-handed pitching. You got a guy like Xander Bogaerts with a 407 WOBA, 114 ISO, so he's probably in play. And a guy like Rusney Castillo, who has a 375 WOBA so far, but he has a very small ISO number, only 0.075. So he's not somebody who really stands out as having a lot of upside. But if he's cheap on whatever site you're playing, he could be a decent salary saving option to look at because he does hit pretty well against those left-handed pitchers. Next guy we can talk about, Kendall Graveman. Graveman's with the Athletics, 275 batting average, basically the left-handed and right-handed bat. So you can look at guys from both sides of the plate. It's tough for him because he's going up into Toronto, which is a big negative park switch, and that team's got a lot of guys that can mash. You're looking at a guy like, let's see, we got Josh Donaldson, 385 WOBA, 263 ISO. Joey Batista, 382 WOBA, 298 ISO. Troy Tulowitzki, 375 WOBA, 268 ISO. Even Chris Colabello still 363 WOBA, 159 ISO number. So you know that Toronto team can put up some runs. The guys on the top of that order, the Tulo, the Josh Donaldson, the Joey Batista, even a guy like Encarnacion, whose numbers aren't great, but he can always, he has the power to get into a home run or two every game. I think this is going to be a tough matchup here for Graveman, and I think you can look at some of these Toronto bets. Let's see. We got Carlos Rodon going up for the White Sox against the Angels. Right-handed bats hitting 312 against him with 7 home runs and 57 innings pitched. The one guy who stands out is Mike Trout. Trout, 427 WOBA, 312 ISO number. He's really the only guy whose numbers jump off the page at you. But, again, I think he is a good option in the lefty-righty matchup against a guy like Rodon. Let's see. We have Luis Severino pitching for the Yankees. He's making his second start. He was very good in his first start, but he did give up a long ball to a left-handed batter. David Ortiz hit a moonshot against him. Probably went 450 feet. It was a monster blast at Yankee Stadium. So I do think the one guy you might be able to look at in this game is Michael Brantley. Brantley's got a 385 WOBA, 169 ISO, left-handed bat, has some power, has been hitting well, looking better. His numbers are really improving over the course of the last month. So I think he's the one guy who would be in play for me on that Cleveland offense. Let's see. We got Jeremy Hellickson. Hellickson allowed left-handed bats to hit 295 against him, 6 home runs in 45 innings. And he's actually allowed right-handed bats to hit 250 against him with 12 home runs. So I think you can take guys from both sides of the plate. He goes up against the Phillies offense that's been absolutely red hot lately. So I think you can look at a guy like Maikel Franco, 362 WOBA, 215 ISO. Ryan Howard, if he's in the lineup today, 350 WOBA, 246 ISO. He actually got the day off yesterday. I'm not really sure why. You guys know every day I always mention a guy like Cesar Hernandez, a good cheap option depending on what site you're playing on. Again, all this guy does is get a couple hits or walks, steal a base, score a run. And if you're playing over on DraftKings, a hit, a stolen base, and a run scored is worth 10 DraftKings points. And at a salary of, again, his salary got bumped up to $3,400 for the game 2 days ago. I don't know what his salary is today. I actually didn't look before I came on. But again, if he's under 4, even at 4,000, I still think that's a pretty good play. This guy has had 10 DraftKings points or more, and like 8 of his last 11 games. He's had at least 7 points in 10 of his last 11 games. So he's a solid, safe, consistent cash game play that we've been recommending. And he's also somebody who can give you a little bit of tournament upside. Plus, he gives you the salary savings you need to go and get some of those big bats. So there's a lot to like about using Cesar Hernandez today. Next guy we can talk about, Drew Hutchinson. Hutchinson has allowed right-handed bats to hit 328 this year and left-handed bats to hit 273. And he does give up a decent amount of home runs. He is up in Toronto in the Rogers Center today, but that Oakland offense has looked pretty bad. Josh Reddick is the guy who stands out the most on the numbers, 372 WOBA, 193 ISO. Stephen Vogt is at a 359 WOBA and a 219 ISO, but his numbers used to be so much higher. He's been absolutely horrible lately, and we have seen his numbers really, really come down, really, really take a hit. So that's a problem that I think I don't know if I really want to target a lot of these Oakland bats. It is a good park bump for these guys, and Hutchinson hasn't been great, although he's been much better at home. But again, I don't have a lot of faith in this Oakland offense, so I don't know, if I would really go heavy with any of these guys there. Next guy we can talk about, Yovani Gallardo. He's got a guy who has reverse splits over the course of the last 3 years. Right-handed bats have a much higher batting average against them. This year, they're only hitting 257, and left-handers have been the guys with the power with 8 home runs. Miguel Sano is somebody who stands out for me, probably the only guy who stands out for me on that Twins team. He has a 436 WOBA with a 306 ISO number. So he would be the one guy I would use to try to attack Gallardo today. Let's see. We got Jeff Locke pitching for Pittsburgh. Right-handed bats are hitting 266 against him, but he doesn't give up a lot of home runs. The only right-handed bat I really like on that St. Louis Cardinals team is Randall Grichuk. He's got a 372 WOBA with a 258 ISO number, so he's the one guy I think could be in play today. Let's see. We can move on and talk about Kyle Gibson from Minnesota. Right-handed bats are hitting 280 against him, but left-handed bats have had the better averages against him in the past. So I think I would rather look at some of the left-handed bats against him today. You got a guy like Prince Fielder with a 403 WOBA, 161 ISO. Sinshu Chu, 364 WOBA, 212 ISO. And even a Mitch Moreland, if you wanted to use him. He's basically in a platoon split right now. But he is the guy who hits against the right-handers, being a left-handed bat. And he's got a 392 WOBA with a 257 ISO number. Let's see. Next guy we talk about, Chris Tillman. Tillman has a 250 batting average to both sides of the plate, but he has given up a lot of home runs. So the one guy who stands out right away to me is going to be Nelson Cruz. 398 WOBA, 258 ISO number. Remember, Cruz has 7 home runs in his last 10 games. He's been absolutely on fire. Before yesterday, he had 9 straight games where he had double-digit fantasy points. I think he only ended up with like 7 yesterday over on DraftKings. But, like I said, all those days before that, he had some big scores, and he's been seeing the ball well and hitting it and has a pretty good matchup against a guy who gives up a lot of home runs today. Next guy we talk about, Dan Harron. Right-handed bats have a higher average against Harron dating back to 2013. Chris Davis with a K from Milwaukee has been absolutely on fire. He had a couple home runs the other day. They have him hitting up in the 2 spot in the order. He has a 373 WOBA with a 238 ISO number. So he's somebody you definitely want to consider today. The one left-handed bat you can look at is Adam Lind. Lind has a 383 WOBA with a 223 ISO number. So he's another guy that you can consider as well. Moving on from there, we got Anibal Sanchez. Sanchez has right-handed bats have done better against Sanchez this year. They have a 284 average with 16 home runs and 64 innings pitched. You got a guy like Eric Hosmer is really the only guy who stands out, and he's not even a right-handed bat. That's a lefty-righty matchup. He's got a 393 WOBA with a 187 ISO number. I don't like Sanchez at all in this matchup against the Royals, but I also don't really like a lot of these Royals bats matching up against Sanchez. I don't know which way this game's going to go, but I don't think I'm going to be targeting against him, and I also don't think I'm going to be using him on the mound. Next guy up, we got Taijuan Walker. Right-handed bats hitting 260 against him, 12 home runs, 53 innings pitched. Manny Machado is a guy who stands out against righties, 390 average, 390 WOBA, 237 ISO number. So he's definitely somebody I think is in play. You could also look at a left-handed bat like Chris Davis, who has some power. He's got a 371 WOBA and a 305 ISO against right-handed pitching. And Walker has been known to give up some home runs. So I think that makes a lot of sense to use him. The last guy I want to talk about is Joe Ross. Joe Ross has really been knocked around by left-handed bats. They're hitting 297 against him with 4 homers and 17 innings pitched. And he faces the Dodgers today. So this is a really, really bad matchup for him. You got guys like Adrian Gonzalez with a 393 WOBA, 252 ISO number. You got guys like Yasmani Grandal, 391 WOBA, 240 ISO number. You got guys like Andre Ethier, 378 WOBA, 204 ISO number. So I think all those left-handed bats that you have on that Dodgers team are all going to be in play today, and they're all guys that you should definitely consider. That pretty much wraps it up for the guys that I'm going to be targeting against. I'm not looking at a lot of bats against Greinke on that Washington team, not looking at a lot of bats on either Houston or San Francisco in that matchup between Kazmir and Bumgarner. Let's see. Carrasco's going up against the Yankees. I guess you could look at some of those lefties, but Carrasco's been solid. He's either been really good or really bad in his starts. Same thing goes for Carlos Martinez going up against Pittsburgh. They're either guys who are going to go out there and strike a bunch of people out and shut down an opposing offense, or they're going to be guys who, lose a little bit of control, walk a couple batters, and then give up a 3-run blast. But either way, they're both pretty good pitchers, so I'm not looking to target a lot of bats against them. But if you wanted to for a tournament, I'm not going to argue against you. Taylor Youngman, who I think is one of the sneaky guys on the mound today, going up against the Cubs. He's got great numbers. The Cubs have bad numbers. I think that he could be a guy there, but I'm also not targeting many bats against them. If you wanted to look at a guy like Kyle Schwarber, yes, the splits are there. But like I said, Youngman's been pretty solid, so I don't know if I really want to take a lot of bats against the youngster today. And the last guy is Erasmo Ramirez. I don't love Erasmo Ramirez on the mound, but he's playing Atlanta. And Atlanta really doesn't have anybody in that lineup that scares me or anybody who I think is, profiling well against Erasmo Ramirez. So those are all the guys that I'm kind of staying away from. So that pretty much wraps it up for you. It's a Tuesday, so it's going to be a big night in fantasy. I know Fantasy Feud has a qualifier that they're running tonight. If you guys haven't signed up on Feud yet, make sure you guys get over there. Use the promo code CURVE. You get 100% deposit bonus up to $500. And if you email help@RotoCurve, you'll also get a free $25 to test out the site and tell us what you think. So make sure to get over to the forums. As always, post your thoughts on it. Let us know what you think about it. And, this way we can go from there. Like I said, get over to Feud, sign up. They got the qualifiers running for the $500,000 tournament. Use the promo code CURVE, and you get a nice little bonus on top of your sign up today. So that pretty much wraps it up for our Benny's Bats section. Thank you guys for joining me. You can follow me over on Twitter at BennyR11 or follow the RotoCurve site over at RotoCurve. If you don't have an account yet, make sure you get over to rotocurve.com and sign up. You'll start earning your curve points. You can trade them in for tickets to the game, for RotoCurve merchandise, or even for money to spend on the site. So it's definitely a good deal. And all you have to do to earn curve points is, be a part of the community, post some stuff in the forum, participate in what we have going on, and, hopefully become a better daily fantasy player. So thank you guys for joining us. This has been another section of Benny's Bats. And as always, stay classy, DFS.